work with our symphony violins. If you do not know her, I highly recommend looking into some of the phenomenal performances she put on. Earlier this week, she premiered a new arrangement of the Lark Ascending. For our younger ensembles, actually, work with our symphony violins. If you do not know her, I highly recommend looking into some of the phenomenal performances she put on. Earlier this week, she premiered a new arrangement of the Lark Ascending. With our symphony violins. If you do not know her, I highly recommend looking into some of the phenomenal performances she put on. Earlier this week, she premiered a new arrangement of the Lark Ascending. There we go. It was Brandon was unmuted. Our symphony violins. If you do not know her, I highly recommend looking into some of the phenomenal performances she put on. Earlier this week, she premiered There we go. Oh my God. Okay. So that being said, Carnegie Hill actually got to listen to her play Baby Shark, they were very excited once they listened to that. So I'm more than excited to turn it over for her to have this opportunity to work with our wonderful students. And we're kicking off with Miss Millie. So Millie, I will let you unmute and introduce yourself and tell us what you're going to be playing for us.
Hi, I'm Millie Bell. I'll be playing the first movement of Bruch Violin Concerto No. 1, up to rehearsal C.
Excellent. Can't wait. Millie. So many nice things. Can I ask you, how long have you been working on this? Have you played it for many people? Have you played it with piano?
So I just started working on this about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I haven't played it with anyone. I haven't played it with any piano or anything.
Okay, cool. I like to know a bit of background. So let me ask you another question. When you start learning a piece, how do you approach it? Like, what's your process? How do you approach things technically with the instrument, away from the instrument? Any insight into that? I'm curious.
So the first thing I always do is listen to a couple of different recordings from different people so I can get a sense of what kind of phrasing I want to do. And I'll always mark that into my music along with fingerings. And then I'll go in without a metronome and just kind of play each note individually and just get a feel for the fingerings. Then I'll usually put a metronome on and then play with that. And then once I feel like I'm technically there, then I'll take the metronome off and start working with phrasing.
Cool. Interesting. I just like to know kind of how people work, like how you go about approaching new material. So I like that you said that you listen to multiple recordings. I think that is really important when you're, especially when you're learning a new work for the first time, that we don't get kind of sucked into one person's interpretation, because there are plenty of recordings out there that they might sound really beautiful and captivating, but oftentimes they're not at all what the composer wrote. And I'm not saying everything has to be, by the book, but I think, the composers left us these documents, like we should probably do what they say, at least as to lay the groundwork for our own eventual interpretations. So I like that you're listening to a few people. I would take it one step further, and when I'm listening to a piece, unless it is like so crazy and the rhythms are so, kind of ununderstandable and I just can't get the pitches, intervals, concept in my ear at all, I tend to stay away from the recordings until we've had a chance to let the music marinate within us, just so that we're not... The human brain and the human ears, they're very kind of malleable and easily manipulated. So especially if we like something, if we hear someone do something that we really like, we can't help but copy it. And that's dangerous because it might be really beautiful, but the best case scenario is that you sound like a copycat of someone else. You know what I mean? Rather than the best possible version of yourself. And I'm not saying, I could tell that you copied this person here or there. I'm not saying that at all. But I just think in general, it's a good thing for especially younger musicians to think about, that just because, you're younger and you're coming to a piece for the first time, it doesn't mean that your own process and your own instincts aren't valid. They totally are. And I think a more kind of pure way of going about learning music is to first just look at what's on the page. Look at your part, look at the full orchestra score, observe the pitches, the harmonies, the dynamics, the rhythms, the expression markings. It's all kind of there. And then once you've sort of gone through that checklist and really taken to heart, what the composer has written down, then you might start to form your own opinions. Oh, this, I think the rubato could be like this here, or this passage reminds me of this sort of ocean scene, or whatever it is that comes to your mind. I just think it's really important to not let ourselves be swayed by anyone else, especially early on in the process. Okay, so that's my little lecture. My main observation with you is, I can tell, like, you love this piece, you want to have a very elastic way of playing it. I'm very worried about the people who will eventually have to play with you, because the rhythm is very flexible at the moment. So I wonder, even in these first two phrases, and I'm really sorry to everyone, I can't do a lot of demonstrating because I'm in London and it's 9:45 here, and this neighbor really doesn't like me to play under normal, like in waking hours. But So I'll try and sing, and if it comes to it, I'll play a little bit. But even these first two phrases that you have, which are, they're not cadenzas, but you are kind of by yourself. Even those, I think the rhythms that Brooke wrote are really nice. They're quite good, and I would love to hear them. So could you do just the first phrase for me once again? Really, really strictly, like imagine it's not a cadenza, that you're just really observing all of the rhythms, and just see what it sounds like before you get all flexy with it.
Okay, should I play the fermata as well, or skip that?
Yeah, just everything that he wrote, nothing else.
Okay.
Okay, I loved that. That made sense to me. Now try it again like that, and using that as your framework. Then if you want to take a little time on this note, if you want to kind of flow through other bits, that's fine. But like, that's a perfectly good rhythm. Otherwise he wouldn't have written it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
How did that feel to you? Did you feel like very confined?
I think I was a little bit confined, but I agree. I do think that the music kind of flows a lot better when you're playing, with less rubato.
It's not playing less rubato. It's just first playing. Rubato just means give and take. It doesn't mean do whatever you want. it means borrow. So, it doesn't mean discount the general framework of the rhythm. It just means that you have a bit of flexibility here and there. But, if you're gonna take, you got to give back. So it all kind of has to equal out at the end. So with that in mind, try it one more time, still observing the rhythm, and now you can feel like just a little bit of flexibility within what you're doing. Great. I really liked that. I was convinced by that. Okay, same thing, the next phrase. Once, do it very strictly in rhythm, as best you can, just really following the note values, as well as, of course, the, dynamics, everything. Just try and really observe what he says, and then we'll do it again with you adding your stamp to that. Good. I don't have the music here because all of my music is in Philadelphia. But from what I remember, it's right? Am I remembering that right?
I think you're right.
You do it once really strict, no fun at all, and then we'll have some fun. Good. The only thing is, I think that first group of eighth notes is still kind of quick. Did I make that up?
I don't think so.
Okay, I don't think so either. Try one more time. Good. Now the reason I'm being, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to play a little bit. The reason I'm saying I'm being insistent on this is because I think once you look at these two phrases and kind of the whole kind of first half of this first page, I think it's really just just by what Brooke has put down on the page. The pitches, the harmonies, or not even the harmonies because you're kind of by yourself, but the pitches, the rhythms, the dynamics, even using those 3 very, very basic things, he's created kind of a 1, 2, 3 structure for each violin entrance. You know, the first one is very sort of, hello, let me tell you a story. It's kind of, it starts from nothing. There's this fermata. It's more free. The second one is more kind of not forceful, but heroic, majestic. We go from G minor to E flat major, which already is like, it's just a different tonality. And then by the time you get to the third, then it's, you know, the orchestra has come in, you have this military beat, boom, 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 double stops, you know? Like, it's very clear, it's written in sort of the hierarchy of how he wants it. Does this make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so all this is to say, I think it's important that he wrote eighth notes, you know, and we can't just do whatever we want because he's very clearly laid out the 3 general ways in which he wants these phrases to go. You know, you have this very sort of opening, like you're waking up, you're starting a story, once upon a time. And that's very different from... And then that's very different from... Oops. You know what I mean? So they're 3 very different characters. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so now try from the beginning those 3 phrases again and really let me hear the difference in the different characters of each of these 3 entrances simply by what Brooke has written down. And go until just there.
Okay.
So now, I mean, I think rhythm is important even through these first 2 phrases where we are on our own. I think we still need to feel kind of your internal pulse. But now, I'm sorry to say, we need to feel the orchestra's pulse. So, unfortunately, you've got to pick a tempo and stick with it. And really, more than that, we want to feel it like in your stomach. You have to feel this like pendulum going back and forth because it's unrelenting over and over, and you've got to fit into them, not the other way around, because otherwise you're going to have a whole orchestra that's very, very upset with you. So even if that means for now taking a super slow tempo so that you can have time to fit all this very, very, very hard material in, that's fine. But I think you just want to get used to knowing where you've got to land on the big beats. And I'm not saying that it can't be flexible, like all of this, that can kind of swim, but you've got to line up, you know, on the half measures, I'm afraid. So do you want to try a little bit under tempo just so that we can start getting this boom, 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 internalized?
Okay.
Good. Let's try that.
From where?
From the...
Okay.
sorry to make you stop. I'm going to be really picky about this because I think because it's important and it's because what he wrote. So we've had this, we've had eighth notes up until now, right? But now we've got our first 16th note in this context. It's not. I think things like this need to be really, really sharp and obvious. And then also this isn't that long. I'm sorry to be picky about this, but I think if you just are prepared now for... Basically, I think that if I were to hazard a guess, I would say that if, like, your priorities thus far when learning this music, I would say rhythm is maybe on the lower end. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, it's okay. I mean, like, for me, it's bowing. I just, like, that... I like, never learn the right bowings, and I really should. I know I should, but rhythm, I would say it's quite an important one, I'm afraid. So, and it makes the piece so much more alive. Like, there's actually so much excitement and interest and sparkle in all of the little rhythms that Bruch writes, even in the slower bits. You know, just as you wouldn't change a pitch, you know, rhythm is sort of the same thing. It would be like changing a word in a really important text. So try that one more time, even if you have to take it really slow to fit everything in, that's fine. But just so that you can get that go, 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 go. Good. I have a feeling that, like, your tendency is to go forward and tumble. So even on the long notes, I want to feel like I'm not shortchanged. I want to hear that pulse underneath. So even if you have to subdivide in your head, going like, you know, so that those notes are really, really, absolutely their full length. One more time, and then I think we have to stop. Okay. This sort of thing is quite hard over Zoom to, like, you know, I can't, like, conduct you through the screen. But I think to be honest, I'm not usually a believer in the metronome, because I think it kind of turns rhythm into this external thing, whereas I feel like we need to develop our own kind of metronomic pendulum. But I think in your case, it might be just instructive to spend a little time. Again, even if it's slow, it doesn't have to be at tempo, but it just has to be in a tempo. Just for you to really start internalizing this pulse. I think that would be my biggest comment for you. First, to just look at the material with fresh eyes, go through it, kind of observing key, pitch, rhythm, articulation, bowings, dynamics, expression markings, all that stuff. Try and wipe your brain clean of stuff you've heard, because it might not be right. And that's fine, like, no judgment to those people, but, like, you deserve the chance to build something of your own from the ground up. And then, yeah, just maybe hike rhythm a little higher on the priority list as you're working on this. But it's really, really good, and I love your enthusiasm and your and your like natural flexibility. It's really good stuff. Bravo, Millie.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Right. Thank you so much, Millie. Up next, we have Mr. Rafael Linara. So Rafael, get set, introduce yourself, and get ready to go. And what piece you're playing as well.
I'm Rafael Linara from Khan Limited High School, and I'll be playing the Mozart Violin Concerto in G major, the first movement up to yeah.
Great.
Wonderful. And Rafael, just quickly before Elena starts talking to you, just check if you have original sound on for Zoom.
Huh?
The original sound setting, just make sure that's on. And if you're confused while she's talking, I'll direct message you how to make sure that's on.
I don't know how to do that.
I'll message you, don't worry.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing everything because I felt like Zoom was like muting a lot of what you did.
Sorry.
No, it's not. It's Zoom's fault. Good. So what do you feel are the biggest challenges with this music or with this piece?
I think the biggest challenge is like trying to sound light, but at the same time trying to like the sound has to be like clear and very articulate, which it could be hard for like some people, such as me.
So staying clear and articulate,
Yeah,
but light.
yeah. Well, and like
right?
the
Okay.
staccatos are very difficult.
Yeah, staccato is always kind of problematic. But actually, that ties in really well with what I observed, which is, and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but sometimes I felt like your right shoulder was creeping up, especially when it got like quite, when the music got faster.
Yeah, I was getting a bit tense.
Yeah. So, well, no, I was gonna say good. Not that that's good. We never want tension, but we can. I think there are some ways of working on it so that you can both feel like your shoulders are relaxed and actually your bow has more contact. I think a lot of the times when we see dotted notes or we want something to be really light, we think, oh, we have to like pick the bow up and we have to kind of fight gravity. But actually, if we just relax and let gravity kind of do its job, and actually play with a lot of contact as our starting point, that's much better. It makes us feel better. It means we have more control over where our bow is. And then gradually, if we just lighten, like loosen the wrist, lighten it up, the bounciness takes care of itself. So should we work a little bit on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you start from the beginning again? And every time you start to feel your shoulders creep up or feel tense, stop the music, roll them down the back a couple times, and then pick up where you left off.
Okay.
Okay? Good. Let me stop you there. So even on this first chord, first, stay standing.
Oh, sorry.
I know we want to make a nice, big, broad chord, but we don't want to crunch it. So actually, this happens to so many violinists, and I'm not sure why we do this. When we go to play a chord, we actually move our violin down. Can you keep your violin really still and just move the bow? And you don't need a lot of pressure. Just grab the string and then release it. Just try the first chord a couple times. Can you see that your violin is moving? I'm going to exaggerate it.
Yeah.
That every time there's like a, can you keep it nice and still? Just try that. Yeah. See how much nicer it sounds?
Yeah.
Does it feel better also?
Keep going?
Yeah, keep going, but does it feel better also?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I don't feel as tense as before.
Good. A lot of times, the little movements that we do are actually a result of tension because we're like, I feel really uncomfortable, so I don't quite know what to do, so I'll move something. And it's all like very subconscious. But just to start to be aware of that any extra movement actually is detracting from the sound that you're making. So yeah, try one more time, or try a couple more times and then go on. Good, Raphael, stop right there. When you try once slowly, I don't really know this piece, or I haven't played this piece in years. When you go to that, can you, I see a lot of like your shoulder wants to help. Can you try keeping your shoulders really, really, really nice and relaxed? And go slowly as you need to, and try only to move what you need to move in the bow. Like that. Does that feel better?
Yeah.
So it's just, for you, I think it's just kind of an awareness thing, like starting to notice, do I have to be moving that? Can I keep that still? Can that be more relaxed? It's just starting to like notice what's going on in the body rather than like, oh my gosh, this is hard. When
Yeah.
we all do that, definitely. But just starting to kind of observe, like, I don't know, I'm a really lazy person, so I want to move as little of my body when I play as possible. I basically want to be like lying in bed to play the violin. So the more I can kind of mimic that with my body, loose, relaxed, still if possible, the better. Because I don't really have the energy to like move anything extra. So let's go on from where you stopped and we can start to do a little bit of the lighter strokes.
D, what's a D?
I have no idea where D is.
So. Oh, is this
yeah.
One? Oh.
Okay, good. So even for something like this, I kind of see it in your body that you're stressed out about because it's like very delicate and light. But actually, what if you practice it a couple times really in the string? Or even legato. Sorry. Try that.
Yeah.
Good. But where are you eventually going to play it when it does bounce? Where in the bow?
Down, I believe, or no?
No, just when you do. Where in the bow?
Upper. Oh, from bottom, like in the bottom.
I'm asking you the question, so I don't. What's your answer?
I usually play in the bottom.
Great. Okay.
I try. Yeah.
So when it wasn't like a trick question. I genuinely wanted to know.
No, it's fine.
So when you practice it slower and more legato, be sure that it's in the place where you're eventually going to play it. So if you're going to play it here, practice it there. Basically what I'm getting at is start by practicing something nice and in the string. Then all you have to do is just lighten the arm ever so slightly to get that kind of lightness without ever being like, feeling like you're tiptoeing around. So you establish that nice, as you were saying, clear and articulate sound, and then work from there to grow lighter, rather than starting from above and feeling like very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's try that. when you go to practice that,
Yeah.
I don't know what the notes are, but I would recommend, first of all, noticing that that's another place where I notice you start to kind of chase your violin with your shoulder. Keep it really nice and loose in the body, and use a very small amount of bow and really gluey into the string. So that you know where you are. Sorry if those aren't the right notes. So that nothing extra is happening. Do you want to try that a little bit slower with a smaller amount of bow?
Yeah.
Even less.
Huh?
Even less. And keep the shoulder down. Yeah. See how much easier that is when we're not like doing all the extra stuff.
Yeah, I know, but I just get nervous from the tempo that I play because I really can't play it doing that tempo. But when I play it slowly, I could do it from there.
I understand, but actually what you just did wasn't that much slower. So if you practice starting slowly with just a small sticky amount of bow, and then gradually increase the tempo, keep the same amount of bow, and then finally when you get to your optimal tempo, then you just think like, I'm just going to relax, I'm going to let it go, I'm not going to worry about it. Then the foundation is already in place.
All right.
Yeah? Do you want to try one more time? Yeah. Yeah. I think that's much better. Meg, are we doing okay for time? Or do we 1 minute? Okay. So what's another passage that you find tricky? And let's do the same for that.
It was with the repeating 16 notes, like, because I keep trying like I can't really do the staccato part when it goes down the piano, like.
Don't worry about staccato. Honestly, think legato. And then yeah. Anyway, the bows that they used back then would have bounced on their own. So just imagine, you know what? My bow's going to do it all by itself later. I'm just going to focus on being where I need to be at the right time. Do you want to try?
Yeah, I'll try.
Good. Yeah, that's better. My recommendation is it might actually be a little bit easier if you were lower down in the bow, especially if you do want it to kind of come off the string. If you're up here, of course it's hard for the bow to bounce because that's not its natural bouncing point. It's closer to all the way down here.
Yeah.
So when you practice, try moving it down a little bit lower. Try one more time, and then I think we have to go. Yeah. That sounds better already to me. Yeah? Okay, so your assignments are keep your shoulders nice and relaxed, keep your violin still as much as you can, and just think about being as sticky and gluey in the bow as you need to, and then worry about lightness later. Because it's much easier to practice that way than the opposite.
Yes.
Okay. Good. It was really nice hearing you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job, Raphael. All right. So that means we're on to our next person, which is Jocelyn.
Hello. Can you hear me? Okay. I'm gonna be playing Bach's number 1 sonata, first sonata in G minor, the presto movement, even though it's not presto right now because I just got the piece 2 days ago. But yeah.
That's totally fine. Ooh. I hear another go.
Okay.
Any tempo, I'm happy to hear it.
Okay.
Great. It's a crazy echo. Oh, it's probably because you have the original sound on. Okay, I'm going to try to ignore my own echo. No, but it's fine because, it's gone. Marvelous. Really cool. Oh, whatever. I'm going to plow through.
I think, Jocelyn, you have something open that's causing the echo. Because it happens whenever we turn your mic on.
Weird. Okay, well, we'll just take turns being on unmuted. How about that? Yeah, so it's really good. Really excellent kind of groundwork with intonation and super steady pulse. Now I wonder if even in this slower tempo, you can really start thinking of phrasing harmonically, which is to say, thinking about like which bars are in the same harmony or in the same key, and then which are moving somewhere different or have like an interesting note or have a pedal point on the bass. Does that all make sense? So I think it can actually, in many regards, be less even. It's also been like so long since I've played this, so I'm definitely not going to embarrass myself by trying to do that. But for example, like the first couple bars, all G minor. And then we start to move. You know what I mean? So like we're really thinking about in blocks of different harmony. And this is something that I think is great to practice at a slower tempo, because then it makes it easier than when you're closer to tempo. It's not like all of a sudden you have to think like, now how do I phrase and be interesting. It's like built into the fabric of your practicing. So do you want to try playing around with that a little bit? Even just, maybe take the exposition one more time. Take whatever tempo you need. It can even be slower. And I'd really love to hear this sort of thing is easier to hear in something like the first movement of this sonata with chords. But I like to imagine this music kind of being distributed over an imaginary string quartet, if that makes sense. Like what would the first violin be doing? Which part is the cello? But I think you can still do work like this even in this perpetual motion thing. Like which are the bass notes that the cellist is just sitting there plucking or like, really laying down. Does that all make sense? Or is that crazy?
Yeah. Is my sound still weird? Okay. Is that better?
To me, it's still very conservative. I'm going to try and do my best to remember. And I'm going to really exaggerate. Let's see. So we've got our G minor. In some ways, I feel like it's different players playing the different. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Now I forget what comes next. But do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
There was another. It's just sort of making it so that it doesn't sound like it's one violin playing like a zillion notes in a row. Because after a while, even if everything is perfect and even and super in tune and beautiful, it's a little bit like someone speaking in a monotone, or like just hearing the like click of a typewriter, like a keyboard. You know what I mean? It's like no matter how even it is, you just sort of start to like kind of zone out because all of the notes are equal. And I think they can be like much more wild and crazy.
Okay.
You want to try one more time? And again, take whatever tempo you need to really like exaggerate it like crazy.
Okay.
And you can always pull back.
Is that okay? I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's getting the hang of it. I think that's really, like, that is definitely one way in which we can practice this music. Kind of like really exaggerating the different voices. I think it's a mistake for us to treat the movements of these Bach sonatas and partitas that are like a bunch of the same note values in a row, like this, or the preludium of the third partita. If we just treat it like everything is equal, we can't really expect for our listeners to stay that engaged with us, you know? One piece of advice that one teacher used to give me with Bach, especially in movements that were, you know, a lot of the same note values, is do it all separate bows. First time around, start with down bow. So take out all the slurs. And then do it again, all separate bows, start up bow. And not because you're going to do it that way, but because just by experimenting with a bow that you might not necessarily be on, it might highlight things in the music that you wouldn't notice because you feel kind of, you know, too hindered or limited or trapped by your bowing. It just like points out some maybe interesting points in the phrase. Granted, he gave me this advice for this movement, which was like a lot easier to do with the bow like that. This one might be a little bit more like, ooh. But I think it's a fun and instructive exercise anyway. I also wanted to ask, do you have any like specific questions or things you want to work on with this, especially since it is so new?
I feel like once I get it faster, it's gonna be really hard to cross the strings because there's a lot of, I don't know. I feel like that's gonna be difficult, and just speeding up the tempo and keeping everything, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, I feel you there. Kind of, I don't know whether you might have been warming up, but with Raphael, we were working on, even in light sort of what we might perceive as bouncy passages, keeping it really actually gluey and quite compact into the string with the bow. I think that like that's pretty much the only way I would be practicing this. Really, really sticky, and seeing if you can just move stuff as little as possible, if that makes sense. So not too much bow, not too much arm movement, just keeping everything really close. And it might sound really ugly at first, that's fine. And then keeping that stickiness as you speed it up. And then final kind of tempo destination, all you really have to do is think a bit more horizontally. Think a bit about loosening the right wrist up. And then it flies without you ever feeling like you've sort of lost control or you don't know where you are, like, oh, you know, which bow am I on? How am I going to coordinate this with my left hand? Does that make sense? I've always found this for any kind of quick passage work to start as small as possible. And I don't mean that in like a sad mousy way, like you're trying not to make a mistake. It's actually like quite oomphy playing. You know, you're like using the weight of your arm. You're really getting into the core of the string. It's just with very kind of minimal back and forth.
Yeah, I was practicing yesterday and I felt like as the piece went on, I started to rush more and more, and then I just had so much tension in my right arm because of the crossing of the strings. So I don't know.
Totally. Another thing to think about is where I also said this with Raphael. Where will you ultimately want to be in the bow? I think we oftentimes run the risk. We kind of get like further and further towards the tip as movements like this go on, and that's actually so much more work for our arm. It's not where the bow naturally wants to play its healthiest sound. And I don't know why it happens, like why we just all of a sudden find ourselves there and then we're like working really hard to cross strings, when actually if we just keep it at it towards its more natural bouncing point, it makes our lives a lot easier. You get like a much more robust sound that, not to get too into physics here, but like look at the angle here, like look how much more you have to do with your arm than here.
Yeah.
You know, it's, again, I'm quite lazy and I want to like stay as still as possible. Yeah, so I would recommend two things, more than two things. Finding the point on the bow where it is most comfortable to play this music, even at a faster tempo. And you can test this out just with an open string. I mean, it could be here. It wouldn't be my choice, but keeping your practicing really, the sound really robust, gluey, connected to the string, movements as minimal as possible. And then another thing I would do is don't always start your practicing from the beginning of this piece. Because we rush when we get uncomfortable, when we start getting stressed, when it's just like a natural...
Yeah.
Even when things are going well, it's like, okay, they've gone really well up until now. Oh my gosh. and yeah, somehow they just topple away. So maybe like sometime work backwards, like pick a phrase, practice it, work backwards, go to the end, then keep working backwards so that, you know, you actually build your confidence as the piece goes on, because you're as familiar with the end and the middle as you are with the beginning.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Any other questions?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, I can't believe you've only had this for 2 days. That's crazy. So you're in very good shape, and I trust that. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
All right. So before we close out, just everyone here can stay on the call for like 1 more minute. I'm not gonna keep you too much longer, just while I close out the stream. But thank you guys for tuning into our Tuesday Masterclass, and just show some love to the wonderful students that we had participate. We don't get to hear them do solo works a lot. So on these Tuesday Masterclasses, we get to hear what they've been doing on their own time outside of ensemble work. So thank you again for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Everyone on the call,